We have one problem here based on cube numbers. Find the ones digit of the cubes of each of the following numbers. So we have some numbers here, and it's asking that if you find out the cubes of these numbers, then which digit will come at the units places of each of the following cases. Okay, now one way is to find out the cubes, right? You find out the cube of this one, this one, this one, and then you tell. There's a quicker way to tell the answer for this question. And if you remember, we have discussed this one, that if your number ends in 0, then the cube of this number ends in 0. At the units place, you will have 0. This is for the cube. Let me write it here. For the cube. Okay. If your number ends in 1, then the cube of this number will also end in 1. If your number ends in 2, then the cube of this number ends in 8. If your number ends in 3, then the cube of this number ends in 7. If your number ends in 4, then the cube of this ends in 4. If your number ends in 5, then the cube of this number ends in 5. If your number ends in 6, then the cube of this number ends in 6. If your number ends in 7, then the cube of this number ends in 3. If your number ends in 8, then the cube of this number ends in 2. If your number ends in 9, then the cube of this number ends in 9. We have discussed this. Okay. Now, start from this one. You have 3331. At the units place, you have 1. That is this condition, right? So the cube of this number will have 1 at its units place. In this case, your number ends in 8. That is 8 is at the units place. So this case, therefore, your cube of this number will end in 2. That is 2 at the units place. In this number, we have 9 at the units place. Therefore, the cube of this number will have 9 at its units place. In this case, you have 5. Therefore, you'll have 5 at the units place. In this number, you have 4. Therefore, you'll have 4 at the units place. In this number, you have 7. Therefore, you'll get 3 at the units place, right? This is different. So if your number ends in 7, you'll have 3 at its units place. If your number ends in 2, that is this case, you'll have 8 at its units place. Okay. If your number ends in 3, that is this one, your number, the cube of that number ends in 7. That is 7, it comes at the units place. If your number ends in 6, this case, your cube number ends in 6. That is 6 at its units place. If it is 9, then the cube of this number ends in 9. That is 9 at the units place. If it's 0, then you'll have 0. So what are the exceptions? This 2 one, that is, if ends in 2, the cube will contain 8 at its units place. If the number ends in 3, the cube of that number will contain 7 at the units place. If your number ends in 7, the cube of that number will have 3 at its units place. And if your number contains 8, ends in 8, the cube of this number ends in 2. Okay, so except 4 exceptions, we have 4 exceptions. Rest all will contain the same digit at the units place as the number itself. Okay.